Hey, what's up, card fighters? So I wanted to profile my GANDEEVA list that I did take to locals. So what I did was I did like kind of like an experiment, I would say, more of like I wanted to see for the sake of seeing if the deck is still viable or not, what the deck would be like post ban list. So even though the ban list technically isn't effective till the 17th of this month, but I just wanted to see if the deck would still work, and I didn't drop us. I went undefeated, like 2-0 to everyone. I didn't drop a single match, and I didn't have a problem either, which was a little bit surprising. But I didn't have a problem either with getting the 5 binds on my first grade 3 turn, regardless if I went first or second. Obviously, if you go second, it's way easier because you have more components to help you get that bind. But even if you go first, it's not like a giant detriment to whereas you're not able to get your binds off as consistently anymore. It just requires more hard card commitment. So I went back to the Bovride line. My main reasoning for going back to the Bovride line is that this deck just has like, number one, it doesn't require as much soul anymore because Strajinga was your best soul enabler, and you used all your soul for Strajinga, and now you only have one. So you can theoretically only use him like once, maybe twice with the order. But yeah. That's the reason why we're doing the 0 and the 1 of the Bovride line. And then we're still doing the 2 because even more now than ever, it feels like, because we're not running the counter chargers anymore in this deck just because of how fast the format is. The grade 2 of the ride line is just very viable instead of the grade 2 of the Bovride line, which you can run, but this has just come up so many times because you require more card commitment to get your 5 binds on your first grade 3 turn. But yeah, getting into the deck itself, 3 copies of Persona Ride. I know a lot of people, maybe not now, but I just feel like this is a Persona Ride format, and Persona Ride is just like very key and crucial. Even if you already hitting like very large numbers, just being able to cycle off with essentially a dead card from your hand and get that 10k to the front row is, I still find it very useful even in this deck. There was times where I was able to get like a plus 20 or like a plus 30 to the front row even without Persona Ride, but I would rather just like have it and not need it than need not have it, and it just helps you get to your pieces, and this is a very piece reliant deck. 3 copies of Best Harvest. There's really not much to talk about here. Best Harvest is obviously disgusting with you just like with what this deck, on top of what this deck does. It essentially makes it to whereas your opponent doesn't have a board, you're drawing cards. Your opponent does have a board, you're still drawing cards. But the deck isn't super focused as it once was in getting the Best Harvest, I feel like, just because you're not entirely putting all your eggs in one basket in your main phase retire. If Best Harvest was able to proc during the battle phase as well, this deck would I think this deck will still be like very good. I still think it is very good. Like I said, it just requires like way more card commitment to get through to your combos. 1 copy of the sword. Now the reason that we're running the sword is for the grade 1 and the 0 of the Bovride line, but it is also statistically proven. I'll link the statistics down below. It's statistically proven that your win percentage goes up if you run the sword versus if you run the shield, because the shield is for cowards, obviously, you know. But anyway, just one of the sword. If you draw it, you draw it. You're not really like too upset about it. But yeah, deck thinning is deck winning, and soul is free in this deck essentially now. 1 copy of Forbital, and I'm gonna show you guys what my Forbital targets are. My Forbital targets is it's the new. We're gonna get to this guy in a minute, but it's the new grade 3 from set 12, and the 1 copy of Strajinga that we do have access to. The reason that we are playing the Forbital is because we only have 1 of Strajinga, and this is like an easy way to cheat it out from deck or drop zone if it happened to have hit the drop. And then I also play another Forbital target. The reason I play this is I'm not sure if people are still going to be on GANDEEVA or not once the ban list officially drops, which it won't be live for BCS Duluth, but it will be live for I think there's 2 more BCS after Duluth, or 1 more if I'm not mistaken. It will be live for those events, but by that time set 13 would be also live, and then the meta shifts. But right now for BCS season, we're still in set 12 format, so people still might run this. So 1 copy of, what is this guy's name? It's like Funky Frying Shot Dragon Crumb Stego. I play this for the mirror. I play this for the mirror match. Now, the idea is when Stego attacks, you Soul Blast 1 and your opponent binds 3 cards from their drop zone. This is like, because I have the tech slots to play this for the mirror, you don't have to play this. You can play the cycle card, the grade 2 cycle card, that like when you pitch it for a ride, Soul Blast 1, put on bottom and draw a card. You can run that instead of this if you really want to, and you can even cut the, like if you don't like the BOV cards, you can play the regular ride line, cut this, and then play 2 of the cycle card, which I have thought of, but I really like having like an in-deck, like a very accessible main deck out to the mirror that's just going to give me an advantage in the mirror versus a coin toss of like, oh, he just opened up better, or I just hit more triggers, or I just got my bind off better than he did, while this just gives me a really good advantage. And it can also hit certain decks that require cards in the drop zone. Sometimes you can get it where in the early you can forcibly bind one of their pieces from the drop zone, but more often than not, it didn't come up for that fact. I'm running this just strictly for the mirror match. That's what I'm strictly running it for. You don't have to play it. It's just like a personal tech. And then I don't even know this dude's name. Brazilian. So we're playing 4 copies of War General. We're gonna put them right here. 4 copies of War General. This is like in my opinion, like when this card was first revealed, I really didn't think it was that good. And a friend of mine, we were thought like, man, this card's lacking because like you have to discard and it's during the battle phase, so like it misses timing on Best Harvest. But this card is the entire deck. Like this just lets you accelerate your bind zone so fast. Like even if you're not drawing off of this card, like yes, it's a neg 1 to pop 1, but you get 2 binds. You get the bind from activating his effect, and then you get the bind off of your GANDEEVA's ability. So more often than not, like I am not afraid to like just superior call these from deck. Like these are my, like the War Generals are my ideal front row in most case scenarios. And then we're playing, yeah, we still got space. 4 copies of Rugen. Rugen is all just like even more important now than ever, just because you don't have access to Strajinga. Like unless like you hard draw Strajinga on turn 3 or you hard draw Forbital on turn 3, you don't have access to Strajinga. So the only way you're gonna get if your opponent has no board, you don't have a way of getting like 2 binds. Basically, whereas if your opponent does have like at least 1 card on board, you'll get 2 binds automatically off of GANDEEVA. But like so far, if your opponent has no board, then it's just 1 bind off of GANDEEVA, 1 bind off of 1 Rugen if you have Rugen, and then 1 bind off of War General if you have War General. As you can see, that's only 3 cards in the bind zone. So like I said, it's just like for you to get the 5 cards in the bind on your first grade 3 turn, it just requires like a lot more cards now. And then we're playing 4 copies of Maestro. Now, the reason I'm running this card over the grade 2 Stegio card is just for the simple fact that this card binds, and you can bind in the early. So what I was doing, not in every game, but in some games where my opponent would rush me, what I would do is I would put I'd put either 1 or 2 Maestros, commit a front row in the back row, 1 behind my Vanguard, and then 1 behind the front row. Like, I did this really cool play once, whereas I just basically told my opponent, like, I'm going to get that rear guard no matter what. So I swung with my Vanguard into the rear guard. He no guards it. I bind the Maestro, and I draw a card because I retired a card that turn. It doesn't say buy card effect. All it checks for was a card retired this turn. Okay, I can bind it and draw a card. And then I was able to boost with the other column and attack his Vanguard, and then I bound another draw. That's 2 binds before I even get to turn 3. So that's why we're running 4 copies of Maestro. Again, like, these are your, if you're counting hard drawing Strajinga, but like let's say for like the case scenario that you don't have access to him on turn 3, like these are your 12 cards if you go first that you're relying on to get your 5 cards in bind. Now, if you, let's say your opponent does have 1 rear guard, then you get 2 binds off of GANDEEVA, And then basically you would need like any combination of these 3 cards gets you your 5 binds on your first grade 3 turn. Like I said, like it's not impossible. It just requires like way more card commitment than normal. But if you are going second, then of course Alifar, 4 copies of Alifar. He's your multi-attack enabler. But if you're going second, then Alifar is also live. So you have 16 targets to help you get to your 5 binds on your first grade 3 turn. But you know, if you are going first, you would need any combination of these 3 cards. Like I've had like double Rugant and a Maestro, or like double War General and Maestro, which it sucks when you have War General as in the early game, like a little bit, because it ruins your attack pattern. Like more often than not, when on my grade 3 turn, I found my Vanguard attack was either my last attack or my second to last attack, because you just kind of have to play around the fact that like you also bind in the battle phase because of Maestro and because of War General. Getting on to the rest of the deck. 4 DPGs. I feel like this format, before set 13 drops, this format is the format to get away with not running the Blitz Order PG. There's just not enough decks, in my personal opinion, that the Blitz Order PG is really good against. The only thing I can think of is like Stride deck sets, and they do get played, but not as often as they used to. There's just like, this format is like super diverse. There's just so many decks that are like really strong right now, that have a really strong grade 3 turn, a really strong turn 4, whether they go first or second, and I would just like rather have the DPGs than not have the DPGs. Getting on to the triggers, 8 vanilla crits, nothing much to say here. You don't want the into soul crits in this deck because you don't care for your soul. Your soul is essentially free in this deck, so you would rather have the 5k to make better numbers. 4 copies of regular heals. This format's super diverse, so I feel like you could easily get punished by running effect heals just as much as you would get rewarded because you are running set effect heal. 3 draws. Now I got this idea. 3 draws and then one of the Dragon Empire OT. So I got this idea from JP lists. I saw a lot of JP lists that they were running. I think I only saw like one JP list that like with top 8'd a WGP that wasn't running draws, but every other JP list that top 8'd a WGP were running draws, and it just makes sense because you are the weakest. Like before you get to your grade 3 turn, you are very vulnerable because you have to keep your pieces in hand to make sure that you're able to combo off on said grade 3 turn. But you're just very vulnerable before you get to that turn, and just hitting like I was up against Ezel and I hit 2 defensive draws, and that just like helped me because they went first, so they rode up on me while I was on grade 1. So like that just helped me like survive and stay in the game until I got to the grade 3, and I was just able to like grind him out of cards just because I was just up on card advantage. After like once I rode up to grade 3, I was just up on card advantage. It was just able to grind him out from there. And then nothing much to say. This is like Bov, to where it's like just hitting this OT is just very good in this deck, and it is good in any stage of the game that you hit it, really. But that is the deck profile, guys. But I am gonna go over like, I wouldn't say new turn 3 combos, but like what you are going to be doing on your first grade 3 ride up to turn 3, whether your opponent has rear guards or doesn't have rear guards. So I'm going to go ahead and cut to that right now. Hey, what's up, card fighters? So I've cut back. I shuffled the deck quite a bit. I power shuffled. And so like, let's go ahead and do this opening hand. We're going to just do it like up to turn 3. So we have Best Harvest, Rugant, and Flame General. We're going to keep the Rugant and the Flame General, and we're just going to bin the Best Harvest. You really just don't want this card early. You just kind of want to draw it naturally on turn 2, or even on your turn 3 draw for turn. Draw. We got another Best Best Harvest. Then we're going to shuffle. See how that looks for you guys. So for this hand, for this test hand, like let's say we're going first, I'm going to do it as if my opponent isn't going to call any rears. So we would basically just need to build 5 bind by ourselves, which it isn't impossible, but it is going to be more challenging towards if our opponent had at least 1 rear guard. So we're going to go ahead and draw for turn. We have, so if a hand like this, I'm actually going to pitch the Best Harvest here for ride, just because I do want to keep that that 15k shield in hand, because we don't know whether our opponent is going to rush us or not, and Best Harvests are essentially just dead cards in the early games, especially if your opponent was planning like on not calling anything until they ride up to grade 3. So like, especially even then, they're just dead cards. Alright, and we're just going to go ahead and, alright, so we have double War General and double Rugen, so this could actually get us the binds we need right here. It's not ideal, but it is a way of doing it. And we're just going to pass turn there. Let's say they ride up and they're just going to swing, so we take a damage here. We get a draw trigger, so we're going to just draw 1 card. And then, can you guys see that? Yeah, you can see that. Okay. Yeah, draw trigger, we're going to draw 1 card, and then now we're just going to draw for turn. We get a 3rd Rugent. We're going to pitch the sword here, ride up. We don't have any Maestros, so we're just going to swing for 8 here. Or no, swing for 10. Going to drive check. Got an Alifar, so this could help our bind count if we were going second, but this is a test hand for going first. So we're just going to swing and then pass. And then they're just going to swing again at us. We're going to damage check. We're going to damage check a PG this time. And then they're just going to pass. And then we're going to stand and draw. Another Alifar here. So a hand like this, we can only resolve 2 Rugents. So what we're going to need here, we're going to need double Rugent. We're going to get 1 bind off of GANDEEVA. Double Rugent. So we're going to need double Rugent, and we're going to need double Flame General here. So if you're going second and your opponent has at least 1 rear guard, then it's only going to require you 3 cards to get your 5 cards in bind. But because we're going first and our opponent is intentionally not giving us any fuel for the fire, it's going to take 4 cards instead of 3. So we're going to pitch the extra Rugent here just because we only have 2 counterblasts, and we're going to ride up to GANDEEVA here. Our grade 2 is going to make our GANDEEVA effect free. Let's get these out of hand real quick, because these are just the cards that we're, these are like the 4 cards that we're actually using here. So we're going to activate GANDEEVA's effect, reveal the top 5, which it really doesn't matter here, just because, you know, our opponent has no rears. That's going to get us a bind and a draw. Bind the Rugent, draw 1, draw another critical trigger, and then we're going to call the Rugent here, CB1, since he can't retire, it's going to bind 1, and then we're going to draw an extra card here. And then we're going to call the other Rugent. Gonna CB1, bind another 1, and get a draw here. A 3rd Flame General, so our hand is a little bit clogged. So what I'm gonna do here is, the only reason why I'm gonna do it this way is because essentially the Rugents, so you can make the choice here to move back the Rugents and call the Flame Generals in front in case, like, so if you're up against a matchup that you know that your opponent retires cards, you can do this, but instead, if you're more preoccupied with making sure that you get your binds off, and you know your opponent isn't like a heavy board removal deck, you can just call over the Rugans and just have them in drop zone as fuel if needed. So again, this is one of those hands to whereas it's a little bit awkward because you have to swing with the Flame Generals first. So you're going to swing with one Flame General. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the extra one we have in hand. So we're going to bind one. He's going to get +5, and then we're going to draw a card. We drew a draw trigger here. So he is 18 by himself +8 from the bind zone. So he's going to be 26 by himself. And then we're going to swing again. We're going to bind the draw trigger here. And then we're going to draw another card. So that's 4 of the same crit. That's funny. So this is going to be 18. This is going to be 28 since we do have 5 cards bound here. And then we're going to swing with our Vanguard 23. Now, I guess you could call this a benefit, but because of the fact that you have to swing for Vanguard last, if they do like try and attempt to give you a 2 to pass, you don't really have a choice in whether or not you give it to Vanguard or not. And this is like one of those situations to whereas you're more thankful that you have draws, to whereas if you check the front in this situation, because this is the only way you were going to be able to get the 5 cards and bind, it would just kind of like be a feels bad. So we're going to draft check, first check, critical trigger, all effects of Vanguard of course, and then second check, heal trigger. Like probably at this point they'll be at like 3 damage, maybe they'll be at 2 if they guarded one of the early attacks, but probably not. Yeah, if they're at 2, so the only way they'd be able to guard 26 and 28 is if they got a defensive or if they have a 20k shield in hand. So we probably don't heal here. They probably perfect guard this or something. But yeah, that is like I said, that is the combo that I've been doing per se to be able to get the 5 binds on my first grade 3 turn. Now, like I said, if your opponent had at least 1 rear guard, it would only require 3 cards, and if you're going second, obviously it requires less cards, and it's more easier for you to get to the 5 binds. But for me personally, I haven't had an issue getting there. But yeah, guys, that is the end of the combo video. Don't forget to give me a like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me what you guys think about the deck, and yeah, more content soon. Later.